Hey everybody. Good to see everybody on the call. Welcome to the Training Without Conflict Certification Program Zoom call. This call today is going to be a little bit different than our typical call. Normally, what happens is we kind of make a presentation and then Ivan and myself take the questions and answer them and do that for yourself. We provide a couple testimonials, usually written, but we thought it would be super cool for you guys to actually talk to some of our TWC certified trainers and TWC practitioners. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to introduce the certification program as a whole. So you guys kind of have an idea of what the program is like. And if you guys look at the bottom of your toolbar on Zoom, you will see a little icon that says Q&A. So if you guys have questions that you want to ask the trainers who have gone through the certification program, feel free to submit questions there. And once we're done kind of just presenting like an overview of what the TWC certification is, we will go ahead and answer your guys' questions. So, Training Without Conflict Certification Program, the next evolution of dog training. In 2020, we started the certification program. The first class was held in Plant City, Florida. Since then, over 300 students have enrolled in the program. We currently have over 90 TWC certified trainers worldwide. This number is actually a little bit higher because we did have some people who just recently got through their exam process. So I need to update this slide. We're currently enrolling for the 15th TWC certification program class. If you guys look here at this photo here, it's the first class that we did. A lot of these people still in the community and super active and have actually gone to take us up on some of the more advanced opportunities that we allow our trainers. So that's super cool. And it's a big testament to what our community is. TWC worldwide. We have TWC certified trainers in 9 different countries around the world. We have TWC students on 6 continents, which is just about as many as we can have since it's very unlikely that someone is running a dog training business in Antarctica. So, what you guys will learn today, why now is the perfect time to enroll in the certification program, what makes Training Without Conflict superior to other programs, what you will learn in the TWC certification program, the differences between practitioner and professional programs, the benefits of being in the Training Without Conflict community, how to enroll in the Training Without Conflict program. So a lot of this stuff, which is super cool and very different about today's call, is that you guys are going to be able to ask trainers who have gone through the course the answers to this question instead of just getting the answers from me or Ivan. What is Training Without Conflict? Training Without Conflict is a community of dog trainers that utilize the concepts created by 2-time IGP world champion Ivan Balabanov. The TWC methodology is rooted in the science of animal learning and evolutionary psychology to create unbelievable training results. TWC trainers operate with the belief that dogs are our fellow creatures and not opportunistic animals transacting for rewards. Dogs are our best friends. This is commonly stated, but rarely practiced in the dog training community. With a lot of trainers, they'll say stuff like this, but then just go right back to using food or toy to just transact with their dogs. It's very rare that you see what TWC trainers do in the general population of dog trainers. If you watch a TWC trainer train their dog, they're having a great time. They love their dog. They're always loving up on their dog. The dog is having a great time. You see happy dogs, you see great training, and you see, most importantly, reliability in a lot of the stuff that we teach. Play. Training Without Conflict prioritizes play as the most powerful motivator in training. That is the biggest thing that differentiates Training Without Conflict over any other training methodology. We not only prioritize play, but almost exclusively use it. There are some situations where food can be used, but for the most part, our entire bread and butter is using play to communicate and train our dogs. When all basic needs are met, all animals will choose play. If you guys have ever watched Chase and Catch or Possession Games, this is a very common quote that Ivan says, and it's something that TWC trainers believe. If a dog is fulfilled in their daily life, if they're, fulfilled as far as hunger wise, they're sleep wise, they're healthy, their entire objective is to have fun and play. Ivan's story. Ivan has been training dogs for over 40 years. He originally came from Bulgaria and then spent some time in Belgium learning from some of the not just like not just main people in the sports, but literally legends of dog sports, and also working alongside some of the legends of the Malinois breed. If you look at working dog, you will actually see a lot of dogs that Ivan personally worked with, and that's something that's super cool with Ivan's knowledge, not only about training, but just about dogs as a whole, and especially with the Malinois breed, is that Ivan has this knowledge of not only working with, current dogs and understanding genetics and breeding, but he actually, a lot of the dogs that are in, you know, super famous pedigrees, he not only saw those dogs in person, but in a lot of cases, he worked those dogs himself, which is very, very cool and something that differentiates him, not only as a trainer, but as a breeder. So, why TWC certification? Dog training is a very competitive industry. Americans spend over 50 billion a year on their pets. 33% of the world's population has a dog as a pet. 44% of American households own a dog as a pet. 1.6 million dogs are adopted each year in the US. This industry has been proven to be recession proof. So, with all the fears of recessions and all these things, dog training has always stood the test of time in being a successful industry and a job for many people. And how this translates to people who are not necessarily interested in being dog trainers, if the industry is going through a recession, that doesn't necessarily just affect people with jobs and people looking to be dog trainers. It also affects people who have dogs. You may not be able to afford, let's say you have 2 or 3 dogs and they all need training and they all need board and trains. You might not be able to afford 3 board and trains. But what you might be able to do is actually learn the information yourself. And not only will it pay dividends with your current dogs, but every single dog that you have in the future, you will actually have the knowledge and ability to train those dogs. And the most important thing to understand is not only do you have the knowledge and ability, but you also have the community in the event that you have an issue with some training situation that you can't face. And that's something that we're going to get into more once we start talking to the trainers. People around the world are seeking expert help. Here's another photo of one of the classes that we've gone through. We consider training without conflict to be the cheat code to becoming an expert dog trainer. Ivan has unparalleled knowledge in the dog training industry. He's a 2-time IGP world champion, a 15-time IGP national champion, 40 plus years in training dogs. He also has over 40 years of breeding Belgian Malinois. He's a former guide dog trainer at Guide Dogs for the Blind in San Rafael, California. He's a former training director at the San Francisco ASPCA, which was the first no-kill shelter in the United States. Training without conflict is not just another tool in your toolbox. If you guys have gone through a seminar or gone to a workshop, this is a very common saying among dog trainers where they say like, "Oh, I'm just here to, add more tools to my toolbox." TWC is not another tool. It's not another technique. It's not another anything like that. It's actually a very different and revolutionary idea of training. How we approach the entire idea of dog training is completely different to what other people do. Training without conflict is the only dog training methodology founded on the principles of behavioral psychology. Training without conflict is a radically different approach to training dogs. If you guys take a look at some of these pictures, you kind of see what I'm talking about. You see people having fun with their dogs. You see happy dogs. You see people loving on their dogs. This is not something that you see in all types of training. In most types of training, and this is just coming from somebody who it's essentially my job to kind of keep an eye on social media, see what trainers are doing, see how people train, just to see kind of where we stack up along the lines of what is out there for the public to see and absorb for their training purposes. And this is not something you see. You don't see people loving up on their dogs. You don't see people with happy dogs, with obedient dogs that are having a great time being obedient. A lot of times you see training situations where you see someone transacting for a toy reward or a food reward. And then once the training session is done, it's like, okay, you're done. That's your training for the day. It's not about having a good time. It's not about being a team. And that's something that's super important with TWC. We are always trying to be a teammate with our dog. It's not just we're training you or we're trying to achieve some behavior. We're looking to have a great time. We're looking to have fun with our dogs. So, why TWC certification? You owe it to your dog. By using play, training without conflict, trainers are able to tap into your dog's genetic gifts and create results by controlling and guiding their natural ability. For professional trainers out there, you owe it to your clients. Your clients expect high level, lasting results that they can understand. You'll crush the competition. The dog trainer that can achieve the best and most lasting results while maintaining the motivation and happiness of a dog and can communicate how those results were achieved wins. So, what we're basically trying to push with our TWC trainers is we're not just after achieving behaviors. We're not out there to just achieve results with a dog. That's something that 90% of trainers can do. They can get a dog to do something, but the second that that dog goes back to their owner or their person, they can't necessarily have those results last. And that's because the communication is not there with the trainer and the client. And what's very important with TWC and something that people need to get to understand throughout the process of being in the certification program is a lot of what we do is based on how you can communicate our training methodology with your clients. A lot of people, they understand that the TWC certification has an exam and they're concerned about the exam and they want to know what that's about, but really what TWC is testing is how your understanding of the things you are taught by Ivan can be communicated to someone else. And it's super important to us. And this is why this slide is actually a very, very important one, because not only is it important for you guys to achieve results with a dog, but you need to be able to communicate how those results were achieved. And most importantly, motivate an owner or a client to be able to keep those going. Lastly, you owe it to yourself. So a lot of people out there, they're sometimes frustrated with dog training because they just don't know what to do. They don't know what the next step is. And that's something that's actually such a beneficial thing to being part of something with not only the community that we have, but with Ivan. There are answers to pretty much every problem out there. If one person has an issue, we talk about it in our Facebook group. We have Zoom calls. We have all sorts of different opportunities for someone to get their questions answered. And that's something that can't be overlooked because there are so many schools and different types of groups that get together. And once they run into that one problem that no one can answer in their group, you are essentially just guessing. Whereas with the TWC community, we are actually able to come up with answers using the methods that we are taught throughout the TWC certification program. Over 80% of TWC certified trainers say they have more business than they can handle. And that's something that we have learned throughout doing surveys with our trainers. We're about to do another one here because we are getting ready to start planning our yearly TWC certified trainer summit. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in the future of the call. But this is something that we learned by surveying our people. We want to know that they're having success with their training. We want to know that they're having successful businesses. So we make sure to keep an eye on that stuff. So, what is the TWC Certified Trainer Program? There are two paths to choose from: the professional certification, which is for professional dog trainers with an existing business, and the practitioner certification for dog owners without a dog training business. Both levels enjoy Ivan's comprehensive science based training system that will forever change how you interact with dogs. Both levels also have 24/7 access to 18 mind-blowing modules where you will learn the TWC methodology through the TWC Academy. Here are the 18 modules. If you guys check out our website, you can go a little bit deeper and check out what each module is. I don't want to go through and read all of them, but I can guarantee you that from top to bottom, this is a super comprehensive look at dog training. There is very few things that are uncovered, and anything that is not covered in a specific module in the course is typically covered throughout our Zoom calls. Both levels also enjoy access to a private Facebook group where you can discuss questions and cases with our TWC students. So, this is what I was talking about earlier with our TWC community. There are very rarely times where someone just maintains an unanswered question, because we are able to think about these things and essentially use the community and leverage the community and Ivan's knowledge to be able to achieve solutions to most problems out there. Both levels also enjoy access to 4 private class Q&A calls with Ivan via Zoom. We actually just had a call yesterday. It was nearly 6 hours. Ivan is super generous with his time with these calls. They are super beneficial for every trainer that goes through our program, because not only does he provide additional context to the stuff that's taught in the program, but he also answers any question that you might have or any discrepancies that you might have. Maybe you sort of understand something, but you're not quite getting it. This is why the Zoom calls are so important, not only to the community, but also to Ivan. He wants to make sure that all trainers understand everything that they're learning at the highest level. Both levels also enjoy early access to TWC workshops. So, anytime that we have a workshop, the first people that we let know that we're going to be having a workshop is our TWC trainers that have enrolled in the certification program. Additionally, we also have private workshops that we do. So when Ivan and Natalia decide to train their dogs with a helper that they brought in from Europe or somebody that they brought in from around the United States, we invite TWC trainers to come and just enjoy watching Ivan train, watching the staff train, and stuff like that. And occasionally, if the opportunity is available, they also have the opportunity to work their dogs. Professional trainers enjoy the opportunity to attend the TWC Trainers Weekend to take their final exam. So we actually have a trainers exam weekend coming up this coming weekend. What trainers will experience is a lot more knowledge and a lot more practical uh just examples with Ivan, showing you how to use the stuff that you learned throughout the TWC certification program in practice. So you'll be able to actually watch Ivan train. You'll be able to get your questions answered, and we'll be able to have Q&A sessions to prepare everyone for their final exam on that Sunday. TWC certified trainers enjoy the use of the training without conflict methods with their clients. They also get promotion and listing on the TWC Certified Trainer directory. So if you guys go to our website, click on the Find a Trainer tab, you'll actually be able to find the TWC Certified Trainers around the world there. They also get access to the TWC Q&A archive. And this is actually something that has been changed recently. We actually decided to give access to the TWC Q&A archive to everyone that enrolls in the program. So practitioners and professionals get access to this TWC Q&A archive. So every single Q&A for every single class that we've had over the last 4.5 years, you guys get access to that. The number of hours of content that you have access to is like it like hurts my brain to try to think about how much actual stuff you guys could learn by having access to that stuff. TWC certified trainers continue to have monthly Zoom calls to discuss ongoing cases. So a couple weeks ago, we had our most recent certified trainer community call, where this time around, the trainers wanted to discuss how they structure board and trains with the TWC methodology. So it's super important that not only do we understand the stuff that you're learning in the program, but for a lot of the TWC certified trainers, they want to know how to use this stuff within their business. And sometimes people are able to do it seamlessly, and sometimes people have a little bit of trouble with it. But the cool thing is that they're able to ask other trainers in the community, and everyone's kind of able to talk it out. Someone has an idea that you might not have thought about, and just everyone is much more knowledgeable, not only about their training, but also their business by being at these Zoom calls that we have every single month. TWC certified trainers also enjoy the opportunity to attend the annual TWC Certified Trainer Summit. So every single year, we have the TWC Certified Trainer Summit. It's essentially a reunion of all of our certified trainers, which is a super cool experience because every single trainer has not only gone through the program, but has actually proven that they have a full understanding of the TWC methodology, and they've gone through and started to use this stuff with their clients and use it with their personal dogs. And we get together every single year. Ivan tries to present, a few lectures. He definitely does a lot of dog training at these weekends just to be able to continue to improve the knowledge of our TWC certified trainers, because at the end of the day, our goal is to have TWC certified trainers be the most knowledgeable trainers in the industry. And that's what this weekend is about. TWC certified trainers also enjoy the opportunity for further TWC education programs. So last year, we actually launched our TWC expert trainer program. And this is a much more intense program where you actually get to spend 2 weeks shadowing Ivan. And outside of those 2 weeks, you also have 2 additional weekends with Ivan throughout the year. And every single month, you have Zoom calls to be able to discuss cases that you're currently dealing with. And they're not just for Ivan to be able to give you solutions to problems that you're having. The goal is to actually create a situation where trainers are able to figure out all this stuff on their own. So Ivan is a moderator to a lot of these conversations, essentially leading trainers to the solution of a problem. And the goal is to really have these trainers be top level TWC knowledgeable people and continuing to improve the knowledge of TWC trainers. And this is just has as the first year kind of is coming to a close, the end of this first year program is going to be here in November, and we actually have a couple of trainers that are going to be able to talk about that. It's been a super cool experience because not only do you get to now utilize the stuff you learned in the certification program, but you get a very intense learning opportunity with Ivan, which is something that people have asked about for a long time. And it's the first time that it's been made available. And I think all of the trainers that have enrolled are super happy with the results. So are you ready to join the community? Before we get into that, let me go ahead and jump out here and let's go ahead and hear from some of the trainers. Hopefully we have at least a few questions here. So currently on the call, we have Dylan Jones, which is one of our certified trainers. He is actually also currently enrolled in the expert trainer certification. And we also have Chrissy Carmody, and she is also one of our certified trainers. So you guys can go ahead and ask them. So I will go ahead and ask this first question here in the Q&A. Once again, if you have any questions for these trainers about the certification program or their experience or anything like that, feel free to click on the Q&A tab at the bottom of the toolbar and just type in your question there, and we'll go ahead and answer them throughout the call. So here from BK, it says, I train the same time owners with their dogs, and I don't usually keep dogs at my place. I usually do 20 to 25 lessons to achieve results for basic obedience with the use of a leash for a dog without problems. Can your program realistically help me have better results at this amount of lessons or have the same results with less lessons? Does your program refer to training aggressive, fearful, reactive, or anxious dogs? So let's go ahead and have Dylan and Chrissy have you guys at least address from the beginning the first question, which is, has the TWC certification program allowed you guys to achieve better and faster results with your dog training?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. So I run board and trains and private lessons, and I would say that in terms of private lessons, using TWC, I'm able to get not only faster results for the client, but to get the client more on board really early on. So I know something people struggle with is client fatigue where they seem unmotivated, lazy, and I just don't, I largely don't have to deal with those types of issues anymore because looking at things through the TWC lens, you can immediately identify sore spots in the owner or the dog's life and start patching things immediately, sort of as a gesture that like we're on the right track. We can make changes right now to drastically improve your quality of life while we work on the overall program, which kind of goes into the question about behavioral issues too. But specifically in private lessons, it's a radical change. Like I don't I'm not the type of guy that keeps people on the hook for super long programs. Like I want to show people right out of the gate that we're moving in the right direction, and TWC absolutely helps you accomplish that for sure.
And Chrissy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to add on to that, when Dylan's talking about the private lessons and getting people on board drastically faster and easier, the way the entire like method and TWC is structured, people are relieved actually to learn about the methods because they're having a lot more fun with it and they're enjoying it a lot more with their dog and they're seeing their dog enjoy it a lot more as well. So they're much more inclined to just run with it right from the get go instead of asking them to do a lot of things that are kind of against their nature, where some other methods want to say, don't let your dog do that and don't let your dog do that and don't let them, jump on you and hug you and things like that and stay off the couch and things. And like some of these things that people are really like sad about, TWC isn't about that. It's about really kind of getting, involved with your dog from the get go. And it's that like I look at your question about 20 to 25 lessons, and that's just mind boggling to me because I doubt anybody has ever taken maybe more than a half a dozen lessons just because they're really, getting on board from it right from the beginning. And of course, the great thing about TWC is that you have the entire training without conflict arsenal of videos that you can supplement things with so that they can also see chase and catch and possession games and the out command and all these other videos from Ivan's vault that you're able to have them get connected with. And so right off the bat, they're able to learn, the same type of things that you're trying to teach them at home and jump on board with it right away. So it makes it very, very, very easy to get them on board.
And Dylan Rouse, do you have anything to kind of add on to how TWC has kind of helped you with your training?
No, for sure. It's definitely one of those things where with the TWC program, I find the results are not only faster with a lot of things, like whether it's obedience we're talking about or behavior, but it's a lot faster to get to what the owner really wants to resolve. I find a lot of programs, training programs and stuff focus on the wrong things throughout the programs. You might spend 5, 6 lessons focusing on obedience when really the owner wants something entirely different, some entirely different issue resolved. So it really helps you get to the problems and to the resolutions that the owner is looking for faster when you know and practice the TWC method for sure.
Cool, cool. So, I also want to address this other secondary question that he had here. Um, he asks, does the program refer to training aggressive, fearful, reactive, anxious dogs? So, can you guys talk a little bit more about the knowledge that you guys have gained about working with fearful or reactive dogs?
Yeah, well, early on, I mean, I get messages from time to time where people will say, I didn't realize that this could apply outside of dog sports. and I think one of the core fundamentals of TWC is that it's really agnostic to whatever field of training you're doing. If there's a dog involved, there's behavioral things involved. And I've seen what TWC does for high level sporting dogs, and it's incredible to witness. It's truly insane. But I maintain that the worse state that a dog is in, the more impact TWC has on that dog. So I primarily deal with aggression and reactivity cases. And it's astonishing how quickly, and I know if you guys are pro trainers, you're often not the first trainer that's met with a dog. It's astonishing seeing the difference with a client that is truly desperate about the state of their dog. Maybe they're afraid of their own dog. Finally having someone that can relate to the dog on a level that shows that there's not necessarily some sort of monstrous dog in front of you that's been diagnosed by previous trainers. So I would never go back to handling aggressive dogs without this knowledge. Absolutely.
And Chrissy or Dylan, do you guys have anything else to add on to that?
Yeah, definitely with aggressive and fearful reactive dogs. I know a lot of other programs and trainers out there that are basically masking the problem, and they're suppressing it, and they're just kind of covering up and trying to manage it. And TWC really gets into changing the dog. And I think that's one of the biggest differences in why it works so well, because we're not just trying to get the dog to be like, okay, I don't see the other dog over there. You're truly getting the dog to like look at things differently. And that's the biggest difference between TWC and a lot of and all the other methods out there, is that you're genuinely trying to change the way that the dog sees the world. And that's what makes it so effective with all of those problem behaviors that you mentioned.
Cool. And Dylan, Rouse, do you have anything else to?
Yeah, definitely. Just kind of building off of what she just said, just kind of, it's not necessarily, with TWC, we don't just focus on reinforcing and punishing behaviors. It's not when we're dealing with behavior issues and stuff like that, we really do get to the root cause through the methods we learn, right? We find the root cause, and we're able to train the dog in a way that doesn't just mask that, doesn't just cover it up. Absolutely.
Awesome. And Rob, you're someone who kind of came in through the program as a practitioner. So can you talk a little bit about how some of these things, whether it's about fearful reactive stuff or just generally how TWC has helped you achieve better results with your training?
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. Thank you. I think the thing that's really super interesting for me is the fact that we're not, like, I find a lot of dog trainers, even just in my clubs or whatever I go to, when they're trying to train their dogs, they immediately are looking to do corrections to get behavior. So really, I think the core philosophy here, going back to where Eric introduced the course around evolutionary psychology, behavioral psychology, I really think that's at the base and the core of the program. So meaning, we're looking at how to change the picture for the dog, as Chrissy said. We're looking at, going back to the beginning of what may be causing the behaviors, or how do we get behaviors differently, rather than just thinking about negative reinforcement or corrections to get the dog to do what we want it to do. We're really looking at how do we do it as a cooperative group, and being able to change the picture for the dog, which I think is for me has just evolved my training in a considerable way, to be able to move faster, much quicker. So for me, as Eric said, I do a lot more of the practitioner component. I have joined the expert level training as well, because I think the experience I had within the practitioner component really just convinced me that I needed to continue to go deeper in the practical hands-on component. So I think it really, again, just for me, it's just the center of the course being, grounded in how dogs think, how they behave, how they react, is really helping you understand how to be a better trainer. And I think that has really helped me push my training to the next level.
Very, very cool. Thank you guys for those answers. Here's another good question. I think that would be a cool thing to address. So, about the TWC method, does it work with any dog of any age and any breed, whatever their story is? So, have you guys, in your experience after having completed the course, found to have that be helpful?
Well, the another major tenet for me within TWC is identifying who the dog is and meeting him there. So treating the dog as the reality of the animal in front of you versus maybe trying to make him something that he's not. So in terms of genetics, breed characteristics, age, even the environment that he's in, TWC makes you look through a lens that tries to create the optimal result for reality, not what you wish reality could be. So absolutely, any dog for sure.
Anyone else want to add on to that?
I sometimes equate my training before TWC as often trying to fit a square peg through a round hole, where sometimes you're just trying to fight against nature with a lot of dogs. And now, just like Dylan said, it's really meeting the dog where it's at and understanding. One of the modules is setting up that learning environment, and you'll learn in that module, like, genetics is everything. So when we talk about the different breeds and we talk about different ages and things like that, you very much learned how to kind of see it from that dog's perspective and meet them there. So you're not trying to fight constant nature, trying to suppress something that's always going to be there. Instead, you learn how to work with it, and you learn how to filter it into something that's super beneficial for the dog and for the owner.
Very cool. Um, So just to kind of go off of what you just said, Chrissy, talking about what life was like before being a TWC trainer and after learning the knowledge in the TWC program, I think there's just like a very common saying in dog training where people say this thing. They like it's such a like one of the cheesy things that dog trainers say. Like if you had one of those memes that said like the dog trainer starter pack, like one of the quotes would be train the dog in front of you. But can you say what that phrase would mean? And you guys can all answer this question. What that phrase means to you now having gone through the course versus what it would have meant to you prior to doing the course.
I think that, yeah, it is kind of funny to watch the train the dog in front of you crowd repeat the same method and strategy ad nauseum with different dogs constantly. And I think people take it at a super surface level, like, what brand of treat does this dog like? When there's just like, there's so much more depth to it on a level where, I don't know, if you're dealing with a behavioral case, the timetable can be completely different from dog to dog. And I'm not thinking about getting caught in the weeds on, does he operate on this e-collar level or this or that e-collar level. It's more like, who is he in relation to me? Does he trust me? What do I have to do to show good faith to the dog? And that could be a different answer for any given dog and any given problem that they're having. So it's true, but it goes much deeper, I think, than most people apply.
Yeah, I agree with what Dylan said. And then also it's like goes back to the original question of like works with does the training work with any breed, any dog, any age? And that's kind of a common thing trainers will say about their training system. And really what they mean is like they'll do the same method with every dog, every breed, every age, kind of regardless of whether it's actually going to work or not. And they end up, yeah, kind of going against the nature of the dog, the genetics of the dog. And so when you're training the dog in front of you for us, it means look at who that dog is, look at their genetics, look at their past history, look at the owners that's living with them. All of these things kind of come together to make up that dog. Whereas I think a lot of people, when they say train the dog in front of you, they just mean, you know, they're like what Dylan said, they're looking at what treats does the dog take? What's the dog's favorite kind of toy, that kind of thing, which is not the right way to look at it.
I think maybe I'll just, I mean, I think the two Dylan said it perfectly, but if I just added one thing, I think it would be that it's everyone's always focused on the outcome first, right? The outcome is what do I want my dog to do a sit? I want my dog to do a down. I want my dog to go to place. I don't want my dog to jump. And really, the way that we think about this is again with that dog in front of you, like what is possible for that dog? Because not every dog is going to go to a dog park and thrive. Not every dog is going to be able to walk through public and thrive. And so, it's really just thinking about also how to design the program and what's right for that dog, because that's responsible for that dog and responsible for that owner from that point of view too. And I think, this is what's really changed my philosophy in this. It's not just thinking about how do I get this dog to do that behavior that I want, but how do I do it responsibly within the context of that dog as well.
Yeah, very, very cool. I think it's just very important to address that, because I just think it's such a common saying among dog trainers where people say this thing like, "Oh, train the dog in front of you, train the dog in front of you." It's like everyone just kind of says like, yeah, like, "Oh, I'm gonna look at the breed, but then I'm just gonna do the exact same thing I do, and maybe I change the way that I lure to the left or lure to the right, but it's pretty much the exact same thing." So, um, I just think that it's just a very key difference in that not only do you guys get the knowledge of not just necessarily training the dog in front of you, but really getting deep into understanding the genetics of a dog and really understanding not only what their breed prefers to do, but also being able to evaluate by just looking at the dog how the dog is feeling. And that's something that's super important, I think, and that's something that I didn't even really necessarily touch on with some of the images, is that a lot of this stuff, like people will say like, "Oh, like love up on your dog during training," but a lot of the stuff with like loving up on your dog or enjoying the training, it's not just about providing that like positive reinforcement of petting or whatever, but it's literally like showing your dog like, "Hey, I understand you." And by showing that understanding, you guys are actually able to get what they want. And it's never about like, "I'm the trainer, you're going to do what I want you to do." It's about, what do you want? And how do I take what you want to achieve the things that we can do together? And I think that that's something that's very key and different to what TWC is versus other training methods out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other questions here. So Nate asked, would there be a course for people like myself that do not have a dog training business, but would like to do so in the future? Would this mean that I need to do both courses? So, Nate, just to answer your question generally, the course content for practitioners and professionals is exactly the same. So there is no difference, and there's not two separate courses for two separate people. The only difference is that you would actually, for the professional, be required to do the written and practical exam at the end of the program. But that's the only difference. The content and the stuff that you learn is exactly the same. To answer your question, if you are currently someone that doesn't have a dog training business but would like to do so in the future, you can enroll as a practitioner and then later upgrade to the professional certification program, and that would just be an upgrade fee. It wouldn't be two separate charges of the enrollment fee for two different programs. That being said, I do want to have Rob kind of chime in here. He did discuss it kind of briefly with one of his answers earlier, but he did kind of start the program as a practitioner, but then really just decided that he wanted to go even deeper. So, Rob, can you just kind of talk about like what the things that you learned in the TWC course primarily were, and what was the thing that really made you want to just dive much deeper into the stuff that Ivan teaches?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think the thing I really appreciate about the course is probably about 2 to 3 things that really stand out to me. One, the content, right? And so again, when you go through other dog training, you're not going to get the same. This is to be completely honest, this is like a university level course, just so you guys understand. This is not, these modules, those 18 modules, they're deep. They go very, very deep. And what you're learning is probably, fourth year behavioral psychology at some university. It's a very deep, intense program. But for people who really want to understand dogs and how they think and how they behave, it's core to everything that we're doing when you get on to the field or into the training, to training your dog. So I really super appreciated that. I find it very different. It's not just here are the 5 steps to make a dog to sit, or 5 steps to make it place. It's not that at all, because we've already talked about each dog being unique. You're training the dog in front of you is a very different philosophy. So you have to understand those core fundamentals from behavioral psychology. So I think that was fascinating. The other thing that I really super appreciated was the community. And I know Eric touched on it in the beginning. We really haven't talked about it in the Q&A yet, but the fact that I can not have only built so many friends through the years of going through this, because I was in the first virtual, which was the second class overall. So it's been a number of years. And so the people that I've met through here have also helped me be a better trainer. And so when we have that opportunity to ask for help in the community, it is fundamental to being able to make progress in the way that you're addressing your training. Because there's probably things that I've experienced that or haven't experienced that many others have. And so being able to, have that conversation of how things have worked and talk about the genetics and talk about the behavioral psychology with other people who actually have the same level of understanding is fascinating and fundamental to be able to continue to progress as a dog trainer. So I think those 2 things really made me dive in deeper. And so I just felt like very supported by the community. And I felt like there's such a level of knowledge and understanding that I just continue to go through it. So now that I have joined the expert training program, that is next level. So just being able to spend so much time on site with Ivan and Eric and Natalia and others, like the whole TWC crew there, is really, and the hands-on that you get while you're there, and the intimate setting of just a few practitioners having these deep conversations is really, I don't think you would find that anywhere else, quite honestly. So for me, this has been super, super valuable. And I mean, I'm hoping we get an advanced training level 2, honestly, after this one. I have to get to this one first, but because it's been so fascinating and so fun to go through.
Yeah, very, very cool. And just to kind of branch off of what Rob has been talking about, can you, Dylan, both Dylans, and Chrissy, just kind of discuss a little bit about how the community has affected you as a trainer and you as a just as a person, kind of throughout the process of being in the TWC certification program?
So I came into the course thinking that the collaborative community element was going to be very supplemental. Like, I didn't really know what to expect. I was more here purely just for the knowledge. And it has ended up being so crucial with me, especially being in the second level course, the behavioral troubleshooting element, where I know that if I take on a really gnarly dog that pushes me to my limit, I have this backstop behind me where I can get on a phone call or get on a Zoom call and be like, guys, what the hell would you do with this dog? And I know that not only am I going to be talking to people that know what they're doing and they're going to have different ideas, but we have the same motivations and the same core principles, which is putting the welfare of the dog, the emotional welfare of the dog first. So I know I'm going to get something worthwhile. So it really does embolden me to push harder with the dogs that I work with in terms of the challenge level, for sure.
Yeah, there's always just something to learn too from everybody. There's, whether it's somebody brings in a different case that you maybe have not seen or worked with yourself as a trainer, or somebody asks a question that you just never thought to ask. You're going to get thoughtful responses. You might get a different perspective than the one that you kind of had thought of yourself, even though it's still going to be within the methodologies and the concepts that we teach within the course. and that can be just so great, especially for younger trainers and stuff like that, to have that kind of ability to ask those questions and have them answered.
And Chrissy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the course is it is so like broad and it encompasses so much, and yet it is impossible to cover every single problem with a dog and every single issue that an owner is going to come up with. And you're going to have a lot of different factors that, like, the course itself doesn't give you the answer for every single little thing. So there's going to be gaps that you're going to need to fill in here and there. And when I was taking the course, they were a little like, as I was going through it, I had to brainstorm a lot more. And the community calls, the Zoom calls were so helpful to help, piece those puzzles together. After certifying, those monthly calls were just massively, like, light bulbs kept going off, especially the first several of them that I went to. And then all of a sudden, like, several into them, like, those light bulbs were able to just go off a lot faster in my own brain with problem solving all these individual, factors and whatnot. So the community in itself, like, yeah, it is such a pivotal part of the program. And I think I forget somewhere where they say, they don't teach yet, how to catch the fish or whatever, but how to fish in general, that whole saying. And it's so true, because you really start to learn how to see it in all of the concepts to apply them to each individual circumstance that you have and whatnot. And for me, those light bulbs continue to go off the more I participate within the community of TWC, because it really just helps a ton to be able to see different trainers problem solving, each individual case. And like Eric was saying, Ivan is very much a moderator, at times during these calls, and we really go through the motions, ourselves on how to problem solve all of it. And he still, of course, chimes in, with his own expertise, with everything. But it's been really cool to see 2 years of community calls evolve into just how much, like, all the trainers are able to just dive into the problems head on themselves. So the community itself is just massively important in terms of being able to help with all of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think just just to kind of touch on, like, I'm just looking through this. I don't know if you guys get to see it, but I'm just looking at the list of people that are in the room just on this call. And the cool thing is there's so many people who have already enrolled and completed the TWC certification program. And like I say this every call, and at some point it might seem cheesy, but like it's such a testament to what we have spent time building and what you guys have all helped us build, to have people that are like, they're not just like, oh, I did the thing and now I'm done. Like they're just as interested in today's call as they were the first day that they enrolled, which is like so impressive and cool, I think. Like the fact that someone who like you know um Dylan or Rob or whoever has already completed the course, gone through everything that they can go through, or like, let's say somebody completes the TWC certification program, they're in the expert trainer program, they already got a dog from Ivan, and like, it's not like, okay, I checked off all the boxes and being part of Ivan's community. It's like, no, I literally want to be part of this. Like, I want to know what they're saying. I want to know what, like, just for example, like Christopher Locke, he's one of our newest TWC certified trainers. He's on the call and he's just as interested in what you guys are saying today as prior to him having been on the call. So, I just think that that's super cool to always see people who have already enrolled, people who are not here for this call to push them into anything or to do any, they're just interested in learning more about what you guys are going to be saying about the course. So I think that's just a super cool testament of the community as a whole. To move on to kind of the next question, and this is more for the professional trainers. How has TWC changed your training business? Has your client base changed? Are you finding more dedicated owners? Is your business doing better? So if you guys want to take that one on.
Yeah, I see a lot of the, I guess what you would call client bashing, like where people online will pop off about how dumb and lazy their clients are. And I'm not saying that bad clients don't exist. Like I've met some doozies, but I just don't have those issues. And I think a large part of it is because when you adapt the TWC stuff over to post board and train or even just private lessons, you're giving people guidance that does not come into conflict with their normal lives. So the more you disrupt someone's schedule and you say every morning before work, I need you to go out in the driveway with your bag of kibble and do sit, stand, down, you've lost like 95% of the pet dog owning population just immediately. And I find that not only am I getting better results now, but I almost am giving people permission to enjoy being with their dogs, enjoy training their dogs. So it's almost like people come to me and they don't get a workload, they get work taken off. And at the same time, they get their problems resolved. So if anything, my client base has become super dedicated and it's reflected in the long-term progress too.
Yeah, I would say that I think like one of the biggest things to running a successful business is to make sure that you enjoy the business you're running and the work that you're doing. And with the TWC training, since going through the course, since applying all these concepts and stuff, I definitely enjoy what I do a lot more. I enjoy teaching dogs. I enjoy teaching owners these concepts and methods far more than anything else I had done in the past. And that to me is a big concept too of how it's affected my business positively. So.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's, there were some methods that I dived into, years and years ago that you felt like a human Pez dispenser, just nonstop, feeding the dog, chasing these behaviors and chasing different things. And it's like, you're no longer like trying to create this robotic type of training type of thing. It's so, like, for lack of a better word, organic, where it's just this natural way of having a relationship with your dog. And owners, like, they just latch onto it so quickly and you're just not trying to like ration out that food for the morning and like looking for different ways to constantly, find this behavior and that behavior. It's very, very organic and this natural way to connect with the dog socially and emotionally. And that is why people got their dog to begin with. So it just goes back to what they were ultimately trying to create when they got a dog, which is just this relationship that's so far beyond just these little rats pressing levers in their little aquarium tanks or whatever. It's very, very just natural for them, and owners are very, very quick to latch onto it. So they are much, much more like involved with it from the get-go. And like, how can it not improve business that way? It just feels better as a trainer when you see everybody involved having much more fun with it, the dog, the owner, and yourself.
Yeah, I think that one of the most unspoken benefits of the TWC program is because it's so rooted in the concepts of evolutionary psychology, it can actually be used on your clients as well. And what that allows you to do is not just and this is like coming from somebody like prior to me being part of TWC, I had a dog training business in New York City. it was very much about like, okay, when I turn the dog back over, I'm just going to give them the tasks. I'm going to give them the structure. Like, you do your training session in the morning, you go for this many walks, and this is how many minutes, and this is how many. And that's what I felt was the answer, because it was just like, okay, I give the dog structure. So now I give the human structure, and then we're all good. And as long as they just keep the structure, everything's fine. But what that didn't really allow you to do is to really tap into what that person, like Chrissy said, the reason that that person got a dog. They wanted to enjoy being with their best friend. And giving people, like Dylan said, essentially giving people back the permission, because that's another thing that's so common in some of these dog training social media accounts, where it's just like, oh, structure this, structure that, place, keep your dog out of the way, make sure they're not doing anything wrong, and as long as they're not in the way and not doing anything wrong, everything's good and you're such a good dog trainer. But what TWC allows you to do is give people really the permission, like, hey, you can love your dog. You can baby talk your dog. You can sleep with your dog in bed. You can have your dog on the couch. You can have your dog even not listen to you in the house for certain things. And it's not going to be the end of the world. Like Ivan is, talks about it, all over the place, where he says, like, there are sometimes he's got to yell at his dog to come inside 4, 5, 6 times before they actually realize that they have to come in. But when that, training obedience is needed, his dogs know what that communication is and why it's okay. This time I have to listen. And I think that that's just a big piece of what TWC is it allows you to teach the owner, like, hey, it's okay sometimes if your dog doesn't listen to you, and here's how you can leverage it, and here's how you can just be a person, because that's how people work. Like, people don't always listen the first time or the second time or the third time, but it's like, hey, as long as we get the thing accomplished, we got it done. But I think that that's just a big piece of what the information that you learn is using not only the concepts to train dogs, but also to approach your clients in a way that allows you to motivate them to enjoy having a dog again. So if you guys want to talk about that.
Yeah, it is. It becomes kind of some combination of funny and sad to look at like a behavioral modification program now that you would just see generic, like, again, like viral Instagram video, where the medicine for an aggression case is you just can't let him walk out of the door first. That became like the most crucial step. And there's absolutely zero consideration for the dog on a social or emotional level. It's like I'm just programming this robot, and there are these strict coded structures that have to be in place, or everything just blows up. And I think that the addiction to structure kind of comes from the thought that structure is the goal and it's not a means to achieve a goal, which in TWC is a free and independent dog that makes good decisions, and you don't have to be on top of him all day long. So I think that when you're dealing with clients and you can tell them, hey, by the way, I'm not going to tell you to manage every second of your dog's life until the day that he dies, right? Like, you can, if he barks out of the window, like, it's okay for a second. I'm going to show you how to stop it if you want, but he's not like throwing middle fingers at you every morning when he wakes up trying to destroy your day, which is sort of the adversarial tone that so many dog trainers take, I think, at least in the pet world, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's just a very, very cool thing that makes TWC different. Is it's not just about having your dog be this obedient, decoration in your house. Like, it's really about having a friend and having them, be part of, people have, like, I think, and this is just, this call is not necessarily for me to flesh out my ideas, but I think I think that's just something that people don't really process. Is like, people have, they have kids, and there's this thing with, like, at least I haven't seen it much recently, but there was this thing where it's like, oh, don't anthropomorphize your dog. Like, don't treat them like humans. Don't treat them. It's like, dude, like, why not? Like, they're an animal. Like, of course they're not humans. Like, as a rational, logical human being, I'm not gonna like ask my dog to, fix the water pump on my car. But like, if I want to baby talk my dog, or if I want to have like a lengthy conversation with my dog, I know that they can understand. But at the same time, like, why can't I talk to my dog? Like, because there's so many trainers that's the way that they approach things. It's like, make sure they're on place and don't say more than 2 words, otherwise you're gonna burn all of your commands. And it's like, I feel like there's just, when you are part of learning what the TWC methodology is, you almost get a breath of fresh air that you're actually not constricted by this bizarro structure that was believed to be the solution for so long in the dog training industry. Um, anyway, let's move on to another question. So there's a couple questions here that are kind of addressing the way that the content is structured in the course. So one of the questions is the TWC course interactive? Like, can you ask questions throughout the different modules? And then another question is the course mainly written, or do we have to read a lot, or is it made from videos? So I will answer and say that the course is primarily video based. And yes, you do have the opportunity to ask questions as you go through the modules, both in the Facebook group and in the live Q&As that you have throughout the group. Those calls are led by Ivan. And like some of these trainers that are on the call today have been talking, when the certified trainer have calls, Ivan is more so the moderator of allowing trainers to really flesh out ideas and get to the solution on their own, because like Chrissy said, he believes a lot in the saying that, you can teach a man to fish, you can give a man a fish, or you can teach a man to fish. And it's crazy, like none of us can actually come up with that saying today, but you can either give a man a fish or you can teach a man to fish. And Ivan is more so subscribed to teaching everybody how to achieve the solution rather than just giving them the solution. So I think that if you guys can talk a little bit about, oh, sorry, the way where I was going with that is that the Q&As in the course, when you're going through the program, or more so Ivan addressing problems and questions that you have. So he gives you a lot more answers during that time, because you are a student, you are learning, you're in the learning phase of these new concepts. So he provides a lot more guidance during these calls. So yes, the answer is you can ask questions throughout the course in the Facebook group, in the Q&As, and privately if necessary. Now, that being said, can you guys talk a little bit about what your thoughts were about the way that the course is laid out interactively, the structure, the way that it's kind of set up? Can you guys just kind of touch a little bit about how you felt about the course?
I will say, like from the way that the modules are laid out, in terms of the progression that you follow with the information, it's very, very interesting, because the number one question I'll get from people who are interested in the course, or just in general, some people, they're just asking about it, is perhaps, how does Ivan use the e-collar? Like, that's a big common question that we'll get a lot from the general public and things like that. And I will tell you, like, I think e-collar is like module 13 or 14 or something like that. And I tell people there's a reason why there's 12 modules before that, because by the time you go through those first 12 or 13 modules, you already know exactly how and why we use the e-collar in that way, because it's built upon Eric was saying, the behavioral psychology of it all. You have to learn that stuff first before you learn the application of a lot of different tools and equipment and things like that. So the way that it's laid out, it's very intelligently done. I will say it's somewhat frustrating at times, because you keep wanting to be like, well, what's the answer to this? And what's the answer to this? And there are some times where you'll have that Zoom call for like module 1 through 4, and people will ask a question that's better suited for one of the later modules. And it's just like, well, why don't you just wait until you get to that module to ask that question? And I understand that that can be frustrating, but there's a reason why the course, I think, was laid out the way it was, to build on each of the building blocks prior to it. And I will say, I think there's a question just about general like feedback about recommendation for the course. A lot of light bulbs for me went off as I took it, as I watched it the first time. So many more went off for me the second time I watched it, because by then I had already had all the information from all 18 modules in my brain. And so then the second time I was getting the information, it was like everything just came together really, really, really nicely. So like, go ahead and take the time to really go through each module by itself. But then after you're done all of them, go back again, because I can't tell you how different some of the information is perceived once you have all the information in your brain after that. But it's very intelligently done, the way that the modules, in my opinion, are laid out in terms of building up on each other.
Yeah, I would agree with everything Chrissy and Dylan said. And then, like, for me, it's not even going back like 1 or 2 times, but I even still to this day, a year after taking the course, I still refer back to certain content within the course, within the footage. And I watch it just for, just for the sake of absorbing more information. I feel like I learn something every time. I have different perspective of the way I pick up the information. And then for me too, it's like, I find it's easy to sit through the course. Like I enjoy listening to the things discussed, the way that Ivan teaches the course and lays out the lectures. It's not just him talking. There is a lot of back and forth with the students. You get to hear the students kind of breaking down the information in their own minds and how they kind of perceive and pick up what Ivan's teaching. And then Ivan will kind of, round it all off or make sure everybody's on the same page with everything. And it's a very cool way to teach. And I found for me, I have a very short attention span, but I had no problem sitting through, 3-hour lectures, etc. So very, very well done course for sure.
I think the only thing I would add to the comments is just to emphasize again the Q&A sessions, because anyone who goes through this who doesn't have questions is probably either a genius or a liar, honestly, because the content goes so deep, and I'm sure everyone is going to learn something in every module. And so the ability to have Ivan's time, and honestly, it is for as long as it takes. I've never seen him cut a session short. To make sure everyone has complete understanding at that time. So if you have a question, ask a question, because you will get an answer. And it's just, and again, it's so great to hear everyone's interpretation of it, because everyone will have a different interpretation. And just being able to make sure that you get a common grounding and set of understanding is super important, especially as you continue to grow in the community. As I was saying earlier, being able to talk to people who have the same understanding is critical moving forward. So those Q&As are honestly incredible. And I think the other thing that I find amazing is since I've taken the course, there's been more content added. And so there's continually new things that are coming into the course and the content. And so just because you've gone through it once or twice, and I think me probably 4 or 5 times at this point, there's going to be new content to get added, right? So I think that's what's also really incredible about the course and the community is just there's constant learning. So it's not just one and done. It's just continual opportunity to learn more.
Yeah, super, super cool. Thank you guys for that. So some of the other questions here, we do have one that says someone recently enrolled or recently submitted their application. What advice would you have for someone that is about to take the course? So let me kind of just rephrase this question and say, number one, what advice would you have for someone who is interested in the course but hasn't made that leap or decision quite yet? And number two, once they make that decision, what advice would you have for them as they go through it?
So I think to answer the first part, you have to know the person's goals. So I would ask yourself, like, what am I trying to do with dog training? So if you're doing the practitioner course and you're just a really passionate dog owner, maybe just teaching new fun behaviors to your dog and having a good time out off leash is enough of a motivator. And in that case, you'll push forward and have a great time. But for me personally, I had a very clear vision that I know I want to spend the rest of my life training dogs professionally, at least as long as I can. And I know I want to work with really challenging behavioral cases. I want to be the last guy in line for some of these dogs that are having a really rough time. So if you go in knowing what you want to accomplish, then you can make up your mind, because you should be serious about taking it. This is definitely not like a sign up and I get a ribbon type thing. The course was hard, at least for me. And I thought the test was very challenging too. So you should go in, you shouldn't take it lightly to sign in. So I would make sure you are very clear about what your goals are. And well, there was a second part of the question, right? Oh, during the course, like if you're taking it, what's some advice? At least for me personally, it was really useful to be training dogs during the whole length of the course. I know some people took time off to schedule studying time and everything, but for me, it was really, really beneficial to go listen to the modules, think it over, and then actually go outside with dogs, my dogs and client dogs, and practically apply it in real time. It made it so that when I came to the Zoom calls with questions, I had a really clear head about how things were looking in reality. So that would be a piece of advice if you have the time for it, for sure.
I think for me, if I was going to be kind of convincing somebody to go forward with it, if they're thinking about other training programs, et cetera, I would say, go all in on this if that's what you're committed to, because you're going to spend countless amount of hours, countless amounts of money, and countless failures probably trying to get results that you will not get until you take this course, and that would be an important thing for me to consider, and that's what I kind of considered when I jumped in on it. And then to answer the second part of the question would be just ask questions. There's no bad question, no stupid question. If you're working with dogs during the course, ask for feedback, see how these things that you're learning can apply, and really just try and ask as many questions as you can, because that's going to be the most important way to get deeper into the material that might not be, presented at face value during the course. So.
Yeah, I'll say what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it is probably a big thing, where there's going to be opportunities within the Zoom calls and the trainer weekend where you can brainstorm yourself some different problem solving and different things that you're trying to accomplish, and just do your best, even if it's a shot, even if you don't exactly know the answer, or if it's something maybe sport related and you're more of a pet dog trainer or vice versa, just try. And I can assure you, because I've seen some other people out there, Ivan will not think less of you if it's a little bit off basis or not. Like, he genuinely wants to see people like just trying to figure it out and trying to brainstorm and trying to put the pieces together. So like, participate, if for lack of a better word, like participate in those Zoom calls. When he asks you guys questions, just try it, because when it comes to the test, that's when you're going to actually have to put all those into words. And the only way you're going to know if you're off basis or if you're not is if you actually participated in those Zoom calls and in the trainer weekend and things like that. Don't get discouraged if you don't pass the first time. Don't get discouraged if you don't pass the second time. There's plenty of incredibly successful certified trainers and practitioners out there that are like, they needed a little bit of extra time with it. You have that full year, and just embrace it. And like I said, if you expect to go in there, watch all the information once, and then just like go on your merry way with all of it. You're not going to get it quite, absorb the information over and over again, participate in the calls, and I promise you that the light bulbs keep going off the more you dive into it.
Yeah, for me, the thing that really helped me make the decision to take the course, because it's a big commitment in many ways, is I wanted to learn from the best, right? And so, of all the research I did, people who have demonstrated their competency in this capability, I mean, Ivan stands out in front of many other trainers available who have their own schools and their own systems of training. And now that I've done it, now being supported by the community is incredible, right? And so just being able to learn from someone who deeply understands this space, and not, again, it's not just about how to do tricks and behaviors, it's deeply understanding dogs. If that's the outcome you wanted in your intention, this is definitely for you, without a doubt. Going into it, what I've seen really interesting is you almost have to go in with a completely open mind and forget everything you've learned, because many people are coming from a frame of mind where I understand how to make dogs do tricks and behaviors and things. I've got all of that. I just need, as Eric was saying earlier, more tools in my toolbox. Don't come in with that point of view. Come in and just really embrace the additional data, the additional information you're going to get, this different training system fully. And I think that's really going to help make you successful as well, because I find the people who struggle a little bit are the ones who push back and fight back. And this is how I've always done it. This is how it's going to work. And if you go in with that frame of mind, I promise you it's going to be a little bit tougher road for you than just to just come in and just, completely open mind into the training system.
Very, very cool. I think that was a super, super helpful advice for anybody interested and anybody who's going to be doing the course upcoming here. Interesting question here. In general, about TWC as a whole, is there a reason why a lot of the information about the teaching is so heavily guarded, or at least it feels that way? Wouldn't it be more beneficial for the society of pet owners to be able to have access to the lessons easier instead? So just I'll give you guys an opportunity for this, but I think Chrissy touched on it earlier. The way that the information is laid out, it is very important to understand things from a base and foundational level before you start to understand some of the more advanced concepts. And in order to ensure that people are able to properly understand the advanced concepts, that's why the information is structured in a way to get someone to that point to be able to understand it. And it's essentially, you don't want to take a 5-year-old and start teaching them stuff that you would teach a freshman in high school. You've got to give them the information that they need to understand from a base level and essentially guide them to the point where they can understand advanced concepts. And I think that although it may seem like it's guarded, it's not so much that it's guarded. It's actually instead an ability to ensure that any trainer that learns the TWC methodology is fully capable and ready to understand the advanced concepts once they get there. So if you guys can touch a little bit on that.
I would also add, I agree. I don't necessarily, there's things like more advanced concepts and stuff that until you go through the course, you're just not going to grasp unless you've gone through some other high education of some sort in regards to, behavior psychology and stuff. But I don't necessarily think it's as guarded as people think. I think people are just often looking for the wrong things or the wrong answers when they're asking questions about TWC or watching TWC trainers train. They're looking for the wrong things, and I often think that that's part of the reason there's some confusion about the training methods and stuff like that too. So,
and I'll add, the information is out there through a lot more other ways. I mean, if you look at like chase and catch and possession games videos, they're only like $150 each or something like that. And the podcast, it's crazy how much information are in those free podcasts that is also in the course in terms of like being laid out in all of those free podcasts. And it's so interesting also, though, just to watch the podcast after you've taken the course, because you also see them through different perspectives and so on. So it's not that it's guarded, because all the information, I'm actually shocked how much public information is actually out there. But the problem is that unless you've taken the course, you may not actually know what to look for. Because you haven't gone through like 18 modules. Like, I don't think people realize like how much 18 modules like really encompasses in terms of all the information that you're going to get. But it's interesting how much information to me is out there publicly that, you know, some people just miss because, you know, they haven't taken the entire course, so they think it's being hidden, and it's actually not.
Yeah, I also think that a lot of people who ask that question are looking for the easy answer, right? And again, this is quite intensive, and there's a lot of learning. And you know, as Chrissy said, these things are laid out in a very particular way to enhance the learning and to make sure you understand the fundamentals. Because if you're again looking to just for the end result without understanding the fundamentals, this is why you won't be as successful. So you really do need to understand that. So I agree. I don't think it's hidden. I think this is just information that's packaged in such a way that helps make people successful in understanding the core concepts. Even, you know, I had watched chase and catch and possession games, et cetera, before I had done the course. And I did not fully understand everything now when I watch them, right? Like now when I watch it, I have a much deeper level of understanding. And so it's just provides you that foundation to be able to accelerate your knowledge in this space.
Yeah, I think that that's actually like a super, I mean, it's something that I always advise people to do once they've gotten deep enough in the course to understand the stuff that they're learning and put it back into practice, to go back and watch, you know, the chase and catch and the teaching the out and those things. But it's almost funny to me to go and watch those and be like, man, it's all here. Like it's all there. It's all wide and available for everyone to really, but unless you know what you're looking at, it's hard for people to really comprehend what they're actually learning. Because again, what I equate it to is kind of that saying, like you see the forest for the trees, or whatever the saying is. Really terrible, batting zero for common sayings here today. But you're looking at a thing, and you're really like, you watch Teaching the Out command, and you're like, okay, how do I teach my dog to out? But you're not really breaking down what's happening and why it's happening. And what the course does is it really teaches you how to dig deep into what is happening, what's being taught, how it's being taught, what are the reasons why it's being taught that way. And you almost get that, like, you know, it's almost Ivan kind of has this he very frequently has that, you know, saying that in the Matrix, where he just kind of says like, oh, I know kung fu. Like he gets tapped in, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, I actually just like know all these things now. And it's like, that's very similar to the way that a lot of the stuff with the course works. It's like, it was actually a very startling thing for me prior to having done the original course, as to how I approached giving feedback to people. Because the first experience I had with Ivan as just like a spectator, or like as a person, because my original, the way that I first met Ivan was just at a workshop. So I was like blown away, but also taken aback by how deeply he can break down a training scenario in such, like, he could take 15 seconds and talk to you about it for 3 hours. And all 3 hours are super beneficial and so impactful to your training. And what actually started to become very weird is, after doing the course and having some experience with the training, is you actually gain that ability yourself. So you get to this point where you're just like, you see something happen on social media for 10 seconds, or see a client do something for 10 seconds, and you're like, okay, hold on for a second because I'm about to break this down for the next 45 minutes to an hour. And although it seems like overkill, it's like, no, all of this is so important. And I think that that's a very interesting thing. And I know that that's a common thing that's out there that people think like, oh, TWC is so guarded. It's not whatever. But like Chrissy said, like there's the Training Without Conflict podcast, and somebody else did ask the question here. The name of the podcast Chrissy is talking about, it's the Training Without Conflict podcast. It's available for free on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. So you can definitely check that out. But a lot of this information is out there. The thing that the course teaches you is how to understand the information and how to use the information to your advantage as a trainer. The last thing I really want to touch on here is that we haven't really touched on is the TWC events. So we do have a lot of events. We take a lot of pride in our events, not only for the event to not only for the events to be successful and just generally provide a good experience for people, but also just to promote that community aspect. So can you guys talk about what your experiences have been in attending some of the TWC live events?
So I haven't done I've only been in the course for, or sorry, I've only been a graduate now for a year. So this upcoming graduates get together will be my first. But during the course, of course, you go to Florida, you go to Ivan's place, and you take the test with everybody. I had the opportunity to do that twice, and I say the opportunity to go because that's really what it is. Even though I failed the test, the written test, the first time, I had to go back a second time to Ivan's to take the course several months later. And many people would look at that as a bad thing, but I had such a good time the first time I went. I learned so much more information than I would not have learned if I didn't attend. And you just get to meet so many cool people and bounce some cool ideas off of everybody, and it's a really really good time, really good community. I enjoyed every moment of it, from the classroom time to the after class activities that you do, hanging out with everybody. It's an awesome community for sure. And I think, like I said, going back a second time to take the test, and being thrilled to do it was a testament to how cool the community is and how awesome of a time it is when everybody gets together.
Yeah, let me just add to that. I mean, I honestly, I love the events. I think I've been to nearly everything I could possibly go to at this point. Again, just because not only are you meeting with like-minded people who you understand, you can have deep conversations around dogs and training, but just the things that you get to see while you're there. There's always training going on, and you're always breaking down the training, relating it back to the training system. Even last year, there's a few guest lectures that came that I've been organized, and so just being able to, so it's not even just hearing Ivan, it's being able to hear other experts in the space come and talk on their subject matter of expertise, and then being able to relate that to the program is phenomenal. And a lot of the the workshops and other things you have a chance to sign up to before they go public are also just phenomenal. These are not just low level individuals who come and teach a concept. Like, these again are high level trainers, high level helpers who are coming to assist you in your training and an opportunity to learn. It's really a phenomenal experience, and honestly, it's also just super fun. Just being able to be there on site, it's energizing. And also Eric makes some really cool swag for everybody. So it's a really good time.
Anytime I'm coming home from Ivan's facility for if it's an event, a trainer weekend, a testing weekend or whatever, I'm so jacked up and motivated because any burnout that I've accumulated training dogs gets flushed out just by nature of being around people that are incredibly intense and want to get better and that love the animals, right? It's incredibly motivating to be around people have the same priorities, even if they're doing different things with dogs. There's a common respect for the animal and just an intensity. Everyone's trying to improve, and it's super cool to experience.
Yeah, I had gotten into it. I went to the Make Your Dog Somebody seminar that's in the vault, and this was right after the first trainer summit that they had. And so there was a whole bunch of certified trainers that were there talking about how amazing it was and everything. And so just between the seminar and everybody who was there who was talking about, the summit, I was like, what? Like, holy crap. Like, what, like that perked my interest right away. I signed up for the next course and I was there for the next summit a year later. And I can tell you, like, worth the cost of admission right there. Each of those weekends are just so phenomenal in terms of what you are able to get out of it. And you get to see Ivan work, with his own dogs. You get, sometimes you'll get the puppies there, that you'll be able to have some fun with. But so both the hands-on as well as some of the additional lecture that's there, you're going to get a lot more information. Last year at the Trainer Summit, we had Dr. Clive Wynn, like in person. Like I got to have like dinner with Dr. Clive Wynn. Like it was just mind-boggling. And we had Dr. P on the Zoom call, which was really cool. I absolutely like those in-person trainer weekends, both the annual trainer summit, but also those, quarterly ones from the course. Like they are just win-win situations. I tell people when you're taking that test for the first or second time, like, I know you're nervous and you want to stress out a little bit over it, but it's literally like Dylan was saying, it's a win-win situation. Either you pass, which is great, and you get to move on to the next step, or you don't pass, but you still have the rest of that year to go through the material and you get to come back for the next one, which is really cool. And like Dylan was saying, every time you go to one of these weekends, you just get so much more motivated to get back out there and have some fun, with the dogs back at home and help owners even more.
Yeah, very cool. And it's actually something that last year I when we went and did our workshops in New England and North Carolina, I had the opportunity to kind of visit with some of the local trainers around that area. And it's something that's like it's so funny sometimes when you have conversations with people that are not necessarily like they don't talk to each other directly ever. They're not like best friends, or they're not like talking to each other to make sure everybody says the same thing, but they all just tend to say the same thing. And that's something that like is just so commonly said throughout everyone that I talk to in different situations, where everyone just says that whenever they come to an event, they just feel refreshed and they feel like they're no longer burnt out. And even if they were feeling that way, what they feel on those weekends just tends to just relight that fire, or refresh any type of burnout that they might have been experiencing. So one last question that I have here is, how has the TWC course made talking to or instructing clients a different experience?
I'll say it's so much easier. It's stupid. Like, it's just ridiculous how much more matter of fact you can get right to it with each client and just make perfect sense. There's no BSing. There's no like trying to, make something into it that it's not, or anything like that. You're able to get right to it with everybody, tell them exactly why you're recommending what you're recommending, telling them exactly why you're doing it, what with the dog, what you're doing. And like I said, it almost makes it so simple it's stupid. Like that's the best analogy I could say, because it's just like, it's a no-brainer. I know exactly, how to describe this to you, and what our plan of action is going to be. And it just, and because of that, and because it's not overly complicated, they're able to absorb it a lot faster and make more sense of it much quicker.
And I would add too, off of what Chrissy said, with keeping things simple and effective when things do get complicated. So if there is something that's actually challenging for the client, for the dog, or for you, you've built up so much goodwill with the dog owner by showing them that you don't have to be afraid of your dog being excited. We can control him when he's excited. That you can trust your eyes. Like when your dog's happy, you can enjoy that, and when he's sad, you know that that's real. You're not imagining that. I'm going to work with your lifestyle, not against it. Once you've accomplished those things, and it can happen really, really quickly, it can happen in one consultation or private lesson. If you do have to have a hard conversation with a client, like let's take it extreme where you have to have a conversation, should you own this dog? Like, is this dog dangerous for you? They know that you're on their side. They know that you're on the dog's side because you've proven it. So you're not like the bad guy right out of the gate, just continuously giving bad news and then dropping bombs on them. It's like, no, it's a very personal thing between me and my clients. And I attribute a lot of that to TWC for sure.
Dylan or Rob, do you guys have anything to add to that stuff?
I think for me, not having clients necessarily, I can speak to myself a little bit and how it's changed my philosophy on helping myself. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot in the Q&A calls and the Zoom calls is the importance, and even in one of the modules, the importance of making a training plan, right? And again, being able to construct something that makes sense to me, that I can explain not just to myself, but to my other family members as we're training dogs. Is super important. So just being able to help me create the structure and putting the thought process in place. So maybe not communicating with clients as much, but I think that would even help if I had, clients, to be able to just go through that. Because again, as Eric was saying earlier, just having the ability to break things down allows you, and in teaching you that allows you to create these more concise, specific training plans, training philosophies that can absolutely be carried over, should be carried over as you're working with clients as well.
Dylan, Rouse, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, as the others kind of said, it's one of those things where once you go through the course, and sorry, I just unplugged my lights behind me. When you go through the course and that you are, you have the right information, and the knowledge to back everything you're doing up, it becomes it's a breath of fresh air and it's a weight off your shoulders when you're doing sessions with clients, whether it's a go home session with a board and train client or a private training session with a private lesson client. You kind of know you have a game plan. You know if something goes wrong during the training, whether it's during the board and train, during the private session or the go home, you know how to get things back on track because again, you're equipped with the right knowledge and the right skills because you've done the course, you've passed the course, you've passed the practical exam, and so it's proof that you know what you're putting out there, which is again, it's the best feeling in the world, really.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for answering that. That's pretty much all we're going to cover today. There are a few questions here that are asking for a little bit more specific dog training questions, like how to train certain dogs or how certain fields of training would go. That's not really what we're trying to address here in the call today. But I would certainly encourage you guys to check out some of the other programs that we have available, whether it be some of our training lesson videos in the TWC Training Vault or the TWC podcast, like we said. Some of the other people who are asking about whether there are trainers in certain areas. We have somebody asking if there are trainers in Belgium, or do you have trainers in Canada? So actually, Dylan Rouse is a trainer in Canada, and we have a few trainers in Canada. But in order to find the TWC trainer nearest you, make sure to check out our website, trainingwithoutconflict.com, and you can go to the Find a Trainer tab, and you will actually be able to find all of our certified trainers throughout the world. So other than that, some of the other logistical questions, people asking how long you would need to dedicate to the course. Like Chrissy kind of answered earlier, you get what you give, essentially. Like the more time you can spend, the more you're going to be able to learn and be able to understand this stuff. Whenever I personally have the ability to give someone a minimum, I typically tell them that they need about 30 to 45 minutes a day, but that would be something that's like a minimum. I would always encourage someone that they do more. But that's essentially what they would be looking at, is about 30 minutes a day over the 9 week period of releasing all the modules. Um, that's about it for most of the questions. Um, I would strongly encourage anybody who is interested in the program that has more logistical questions to check out some of the other calls that we've had. They're uploaded on our YouTube channel. If you guys go to YouTube and type in Ivan Balabanov, you can check out some of the videos that we have. We answer a lot more logistical questions with me and Ivan. This call today was more about for you guys to understand how our trainers feel. I'm super thankful to Dylan Jones, Dylan Rouse, Chrissy Carmody, and Robert for being on the call today. Also, thanks to all of the TWC practitioners and certified trainers and professionals that are in the audience today. You guys we value that you guys are here, and anybody interested in doing the course, we're looking forward to having you join our community. Hopefully you guys learned a lot about the course today. The last thing I really want to touch on for you guys is how you guys would go about applying for the program. So in order to apply, all you've got to do is head on over to trainingwithoutconflict.com/certification. You can purchase the $97 TWC application. You can fill out and submit the application. Ivan and the TWC team will review the application, and then I will personally contact you with the next steps once that decision has been made. So all you've got to do is go to trainingwithoutconflict.com/certification, check out that application, fill it out, and then we'll be in touch with you. The investment for the professional certification is 10,000 US dollars, and the practitioner certification is 8,000 US dollars. Common questions that people ask for that. We do not have any payment plans available. They do have to be paid in full. For anybody who is interested but may not be able to make that happen for the next class that is starting on August 19th, we do have classes that start once per quarter. So after this class, it's going to start on August 19th. The next class that will start will be sometime in January 2025. That's another typical question that we have. So once again, if you guys want to apply for the TWC professional or practitioner program, head on over to trainingwithoutconflict.com/certification. Fill out that application, and then Ivan will review it and we will be in touch with you. That's about it for the call today. If you guys have any additional questions that you would like addressed outside of this call, feel free to email me. My email is Eric, ERICK, at trainingwithoutconflict.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. Someone did ask if we are recording today, and we are recording. It will be available. We'll send that email out to you guys. If you guys missed any part of today's call, we'll go ahead and send that recording so you guys can watch that later on. And I think that we will likely be uploading this to YouTube as well. So thank you guys again. You guys, Dylan Jones, Dylan Rouse, Robert, Chrissy, thank you guys so much for being on the call today and providing your insight. And once again, hope to see everyone that's on the call here at a future event, whether that be a workshop or the certification program itself. But thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and end the call, and see you guys soon. Thank you.